Hello, dear listeners. My name is Kim C. I'm a creative writing instructor at the collegiate level, and you're listening to my one-woman Stephen King podcast, The Year of Underrated Stephen King. On this show, I hop, skip, jump, and splash in the puddles of Stephen King's oeuvre to enhance your reading investment with my analysis of his fiction mastery. We are a small show who has stood in the rain for many moons because when it pours in the Stephen King community, there are always friends nearby to stand with you. Boys and girls, hello. It is so great to be with you on this hot day during the summer of Cujo. I have christened it. It's here. We are living and breathing in the days of Cujo. And what that means, sweet people, is Kim C is getting ready to rev those engines, maybe get a little wild with a can of lighter fluid, and burn down the block with a Kim C novel episode in the traditional formula. It has been a really long minute since we've done this, gone the tradish route. The last book episode was our Dark Tower 7 episode earlier this year. Oh, that was so great. I loved it. But that one was more of a reflection episode, so it really has been a good chunk of time since we've done a traditional book episode. I gotta get a dust rag and wipe everything down over here. But I must say, of all the books to get me back on the horse, it's gonna be 1981's Cujo. Oh my goodness, my friends. This is a little literary gem that has completely surprised me. This thing is absolutely buried deep and lost by the confines of time and pop culture, and it got shoved under the bed with all the other B-list monster movie content. But guys, I cannot begin to express how elated I am over this fresh, yet not so fresh, King discovery. This novel is over 40 years old, and it is reading like something my fellow instructor colleagues are teaching in their classrooms. I am stunned by this. Granted, I've only recently finished Cujo, and my Cujo radar is very low to non-existent. But even so, I believe Cujo isn't really discussed as deeply as the other King tales in the late 70s, early 80s orbit. I could be wrong, but guys, it's such a crowded orbit, and I don't know if Cujo gets as much attention as all the big rocks surrounding it. The Shining, The Dead Zone, Carrie, The Stand. Even Firestarter, I think, gets a little more spotlight than Cujo, and what a shame that is. Having read it, I hope to change that. I am coming out of solo book analysis hibernation because Cujo must be broken down and assessed. I must do my part to raise this one up. I am on a holy mission, and I hope you all join me. Because it is the summer of Cujo. It must be. And with that, it's highly recommended you've read Cujo at some point in your life before continuing. Because as I move forward, I'm going to leave no stone unturned. And spoilers will be everywhere in this episode. I know this is a novel that most people know because Stephen King has spoiled the ending to this particular novel many times over the years. And I'm not exactly sure why. I have a theory. Because, yes, this is an older book, and according to King, if you haven't picked this one up in over 4 decades, that's your problem. But I think, according to interviews where King has talked about the very tragic ending of this story, I think King got a lot of mail on this one, as in letters sent to him in anger about how this book ended. I think he has probably been hearing a lot of negative criticism on this book for many years, so more top of mind than we realize. But yet it's not discussed. This is such a perplexing thing. The other huge King connection with this novel is that Mr. King has said in published word and in verbal interviews that he doesn't remember writing this novel because he was, according to him, using too much, not enough, or just the right amount of cocaine during the composition of the story. And boys and girls, having read Cujo almost twice now, I'm actually in the middle of my second read as we speak, so I can stay nice and sharp for everybody. I don't know, guys. I don't know about the statement, I don't remember writing Cujo. I'm not saying King is lying, But he may be embellishing to a small degree, a tall tale, if you will. Quick side tangent. I vividly remember being in maybe first or second grade. No, it was kindergarten. Definitely kindergarten. I got in trouble because I was embellishing a lot about every moment of my life. I just wanted to make up a cooler life. For example, anytime we would do an activity and you had to write your name at the top of your paper, I would make up a name every single time. And I got in trouble from my teacher because I needed to write my own name and I would make one up. I thought of so many girls' names that sounded prettier to me, so I wrote those down instead. Guys, I was such a weird little kid, but it all makes sense now, doesn't it? But yeah, I was just making up a wild reality and telling my teachers the craziest things. I definitely had to sit down with my dad about what is truth, what is an embellishment, and what's a flat-out lie. Which makes total sense as to why I'm in the world of fiction. Anyway, circling back, buddies, I don't know. I don't know if I believe this statement as much as I used to about King not remembering, because I am of two minds of what it now means. Letter A. If in fact this is true, and he doesn't remember writing Cujo, I do believe he truly, really is the greatest fiction storyteller in the history of all living writers. For him to just cognitively disconnect from this story and have no attachment to it. Letter B. Stephen King doesn't remember writing Cujo because he was possessed by a literary great. Someone entered him spiritually, ran diagnostics, took over, and wrote Cujo. And this was a possession, body of soul. Which I've actually thought about possession concerning a different King novel. I have had this feeling about Dark Tower 4, Wizard and Glass, because who in the hell, what entity in the ether/toe-darkness wrote that gorgeous book? Just a thought, everybody. If you know, you know. It is a startling narrative presence. So sandwiching both letters A and B together, I think both could be possible in a way. He doesn't remember because he was possessed/spiritually inhabited, not because of yayo. But it's also hard to swallow, friends, because this novel reads like a wonderfully choreographed dance between two traditional American families trying to make their way in rural Maine in their respective gender roles, sociological roles, the demographic of a small town, economic statuses, and like the Torrance family, there is this looming, ominous doom for one family in particular. And one could argue there is inexplicable grace for the other family. And with all of that gorgeousness, with all of those layers of meaning, like the most decadent lasagna you've ever heard of, it's hard to swallow that he doesn't remember one lick about it. I don't know. More on that later. We're going to unpack all of that together. But my reading copy of Cujo is the 1981 USA hardcover by Viking that has the tan background and it has a close-up of the mouth and jowls of a ferocious dog. You can kind of see a little bit of St. Bernard taking shape. My copy is an oldie but a goodie. It is not in collector shape, but it is in very decent condition for my personal needs. The Viking American hardcover contains 319 pages, and in these 319 pages, of which we have no chapter breaks, we have a third-person limited perspective that works so well. Perhaps even too well, as King takes us into the mind and point of view of Cujo, the sweet St. Bernard, who is a victim of tragedy, but still, and forever, the goodest of good boys. I'm sure neither of us need a reminder of what Cujo is all about, but in the spirit of tradition, here is a brief summary on the novel Cujo. Cujo by Stephen King tells the story of a once friendly St. Bernard that becomes infected with rabies after being scratched on the nose by a wild bat. As the disease takes hold, Cujo becomes a deadly threat against all people in his immediate vicinity, which includes his owners, the Camber family, and the unsuspecting clients of the Cambers, the Trenton family. While Cujo is judge, jury, and executioner in the town of Castle Rock, Maine, no one will be spared from the wrath of nature and the cold hand of fate. All right, good buddies, little PSA here. If in the off chance you haven't read Cujo before, which is totally possible, we are out there. I only read it for the first time this year. I know there are others. I must provide a word of caution in case you find yourself a new Cujo reader, a new King reader, because we do have some rare unicorns out there who are fresh to the King community, or you have read Cujo, it was a long time ago, whatever category you're in. Perhaps one has become a bit sensitized at present or over the years, which I personally believe it's a good thing to get more sensitive to things as we age. Even the most grisly horror readers out there, we all have our limits. But I mention all this because please understand there is a lot of animal violence in this novel that is very, very disturbing if you're a dog parent or just an animal lover. It is hard. It is very, very hard. No two ways about it. And it's different, guys. I know a lot of people think that, oh, early 80s King, it can't be that bad. It is. It really is difficult. One will walk a very difficult path, and I need you to know that before you go forward and reread this book or recommend it to a person in your life who's never read this book before. Because if you don't remind them, if you don't give them those trigger warnings, they might tell you off in tears. I've tested this novel in my Stephen King book club of a dozen plus members, and those who were sensitive to animal violence, especially dogs. A few of them didn't show up to this book club, and others who did not have an easy time. They didn't have a good time at all. So heads up, if you are reading it, you maybe read it decades ago and it's been a minute, or if you're brand new and you want to do a big reread in the summer of Cujo, I encourage this journey. It's worth it. It is, but it's painful. Please know this. Please have this in mind before you recommend it to a friend. And also take care of yourself. No matter how brave you think you are, you're gonna be impacted by this. With that, dear ones, this episode is getting us back to basics. So if you're new to the show, this is how we do. Our next section is going to talk about the players in the story. We're going to take a look at all the characters we have to remind everybody. There are going to be spoilers all over in that section, so please tread carefully, but hopefully the character section will give everyone a nice refresh. If you don't have the bandwidth to do a full Cujo reread, that's the section for you. After characters, we're going to explore strengths found within the novel Cujo, of which there are many. There were actually too many. I had to cap it. We're going to lift up the heavy rocks, take a look under them, explore the symbolism, foreshadowing, strong themes, and the overall effective plot development, as well as our horrifying conclusion. Section 3 of this episode will feature my thoughts on the 1983 film directed by Louis Teague, as well as my final observations, criticism, questions, and overall thoughts on the novel Cujo. And that should wrap us up until the next time. All right, my dudes and dudettes, let the summer of Cujo commence. I don't know about y'all, but while I pick a few wildflowers on this forest path getting ready for my daisy chain, I think I hear a low growling sound in the distance. There's something out there in those trees, and it doesn't want me to come any closer. I am being watched. And I don't think it's the god of the lost. Mama didn't raise no fool. No one has to tell me twice that I, in fact, need to turn around. Let's pivot, head back to the Cambers place, and start the show. Hello everyone and welcome to the character section for 1981's Cujo. Oh my goodness, I'm very excited to talk about these players with you. Everybody needs a nice big refresh. I know I might have scratched the surface with a lot of these characters when I spoke with the incredible, amazing, magnanimous, perfect horror author John Langan. He and I discussed some of these people when we dove into Cujo, but I'd like to go a little deeper. I'd like to nerd out a bit further. I have 10 characters to discuss with you all, which is a little bit of a lot. I'm going to try and go quickly. I'm going to try and bob and weave as best we can, but oh my gosh, guys, the more I am in the presence of this text, the more I love it. And just throwing it out there early, I think King really crafted a literary fiction piece here. I think we've got a literary fiction powerhouse. If anyone needs a quick reminder about literary versus genre, King actually coined a very effective yet rudimentary explanation of the two. He said, literary fiction is extraordinary characters in ordinary situations, whereas genre fiction is ordinary characters in extraordinary situations, which actually works rather well. And I think the character work in this novel is absolutely off the chain. As I am recording this, oh man, Ka is definitely wheeling today. It is a boiling hot day in July as I'm speaking to you all, and in this novel, everything goes down on a boiling hot day in July. It's all lining up so beautiful. It's as if it's all meant to be. Thank you, Ka. All right, everybody, let's dive in with our first family, the Trentons. The Trentons are comprised of Father Vic Trenton, Mother Donna Trenton, and 4-year-old son Tad Trenton. If you guys remember from my episode on The Shining, I know I'm a broken record about this, but really quick, gotta remind everybody, anytime in fiction when you see the family unit of father, mother, son, that is biblical allusion for the Holy Family, Joseph, Mary, and Jesus, especially when terrifying, horrible things happen to said family. Yeah, that's intentional. That's purposeful. The next family we're going to take a look at after the Trentons are the Cambers. We have Father Joe Camber, Mother Charity Camber, son Brett Camber, who is 10 years old, and the family pet, Cujo. After those two families, we're going to talk about Steve Kemp, ew, 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 followed by Chief Bannerman, and concluding with Frank Dodd, the infamous and deceased Castle Rock Strangler from the Dead Zone. He makes an appearance. Let's start things off with our dad, Vic Trenton. Vic, I believe, I don't have concrete ages for everybody, but I think he and Donna are late 20s. I'm really dead set on late 20s. I don't have their accurate ages, but I don't think they're 30 yet, guys. And I think that's intentional. 30, it does some, and I don't think they're quite there yet. Vic is in advertising and he is going through it. He is in the middle of a public relations nightmare due to a cereal of which he is attached to the ad campaign. Raspberry Zingers. I don't know what the hell happened, but they put too much red 40 dye in the recipe and kids are getting sick and they are vomiting and defecating what looks like blood. It is horrifying. It is a horror show. Parents are freaking out. It is terrible. And so this account that Vic is attached to might be dissolved, which would greatly impact their monetary income. He is very stressed out. Vic is a relatively good guy. He is the provider. He is always out making money. And unfortunately, him not being around, that neglect has caused some issues in his family. Vic seemingly has a very sweet relationship with his little boy Tad. They have this precious little monster rhyme, because Tad is afraid of the monsters in the closet. More on this later. As he should be. It's terrifying in there. But Vic says, monsters, you're not allowed here. Monsters, back away, get out. It's very, very cute. So Vic loves his son, and he also loves his wife. But things are getting a little sticky there. Later on in the novel, Vic is a very powerless character, and I think the reader really feels an immense amount of empathy for this person. Vic, when he finds out that his wife has been having an affair, he does the best job he can. He doesn't lash out and physically harm her. He doesn't call her terrible names, if my recollection is correct. He holds it in. He sort of keeps his decorum. And I think we really appreciate this about Vic. Vic is a good man at heart. He's trying. He is making mistakes, of course. He needs to be more involved in the family. He needs to have a little bit more involvement and connection with them. But for the most part, he loves and is loved, and he is a character that the readers really enjoy. Vic is just doing his best, as many people in his demographic of his time did. A little bit too much focus on the provider aspect of things has caused some issues. Let's talk about Donna. Wow, ladies and gents, Donna Trenton is incredible. What an incredible character. And I'm saying incredible because of her complexity. And I also believe King was really creating a character with mental health issues before there was accurate language to do so. Donna is a vibrant, vivacious person. She, as a younger bride with her husband, seemed to have a boppin' life. They lived in New York, which was most likely very jaunty, full of parties and cocktails and friends and adventuring. And then she has a life transition. She gives birth to Tad, and they move to rural Maine, where she is alone a lot. Tad is in preschool, making her doubly alone a lot. And Donna has what modern-day readers can interpret as anxiety and depression, both. Those two horsemen are very, very present in Donna's life, and she most likely always had them, but didn't know, and then they came out in full force when she is in the silence of her home. It sounds like Donna and Vic don't live in town. They live a little bit on the outskirts in a very lovely house, but they are not in the center of things. It is very quiet, it gets very dark at night, and she's alone, and yikes, if you have mental health issues and you are by yourself and you don't have community support, that's a dangerous, dark place to be. So Donna makes some choices, she makes some poor choices, and engages in an affair with a despicable person named Steve Kemp. And she does this because of the loneliness, but also the fear. She is really kind of freaking out, and she may have been in a manic episode. I don't know if Donna could be bipolar, unknown, but she is struggling with something, and I'm so sad for her. As a modern day reader, I really wish she could have found some gal pals. I'm telling you, if she would have found a book club, or a knitting circle, or a quilting crew, anything with female energy and estrogen, I think it might have helped a great deal, because she did not want to have this affair with Steve. And I know that's kind of a loaded statement, but guys, when she talks about in her own mind this affair with Steve, she likens it, and I underlined this like 12 times, she likens it to an explosion of sewage. That's how it felt being with Steve. She did not want to do this, but she did it because I really feel she was in a manic episode and she was outside of her mind. It was a short-lived affair. I think they hooked up about 6 times. Seemed to be very successful sexually. She was very pleased. Good for her. But she hated it. She didn't really care for Steve as a person. She was really, really in a carnal state. And she wanted to feel alive, feel something. Who knows? We don't know exactly, definitively what she was thinking and feeling. But she loved Vic. She never stopped loving Vic. She loves her son. She loves her family. She didn't want to do this. She's just struggling with mental health. And King, writing in that time, there was no language. Nobody was talking about anxiety, depression, bipolar, any of that. It was how the boomers have always coped, which is how their parents coped, the silent generation, and that is don't talk about it and mask your feelings, numb them with whatever substance you can. Sad but true. Donna doesn't go that route, but she definitely makes a poor choice. We're going to talk about Donna a lot more in our next section where we focus on strengths, but what an incredible character, way ahead of her time. Let's talk about 4-year-old little Tad really quick. I just want to praise King for writing such a believable 4-year-old. I think King being a father at this time, I think Joe and Owen were great examples of a young boy Because every line, every monologue moment, anytime sweet baby Tad is talking with his mom, the dialogue is very precious. Even though it's a somber part of the book, I enjoy when Tad is in the car with his mom because he is cognitively fighting back. He's struggling. He's vocalizing his discomfort. He's like, Mom, why are we stuck? Why can't we open the door? Why can't the car start? Why can't we call Dad? And so this is a little person struggling and using language to vocalize their discomfort. And I just love that. I think that that's really keen child development. It's very accurate. It's so good, guys. And so I just love Tad. Tad is so real and sweet and precious. He loves his dad. He loves his toys. He loves pancakes and breakfast. He's just this precious little angel. I also think, and I know it's low-hanging fruit with early King titles that every child shines in some way, but I don't know. I think King hints at it potentially because sweet little baby Tad has a very scary closet. Tad has also had a very frightening dream about the Castle Rot Strangler, Frank Dodd. He doesn't know it's Frank Dodd, but he sees a man in a rain slicker. So there's a lot of haunting premonition stuff going on. More on that later. Holy cow. But Tad might shine a little bit, tiny bit. I think that's safe to say. We will explore this more further, but I want to talk about the Cambers. We've got Joe Camber, who is a repairman, vehicle repairman in town. He kind of lives out in the Tules. Joe is not my favorite person, y'all. Joe is abusive to his wife, Charity. Has been probably throughout their entire 15-year marriage. Drinks too much, puts his hands on her. Not a great guy, doesn't handle his emotions well. He's also a hard-drinking man and a philandering man. Joe is very vocal with his buddies about visiting a whorehouse in Machias, I think, or some sort of house of ill repute, so he is not a faithful man to his wife Charity. He's ticking all the boxes of an unlikable character. But I guess Joe is relatively decent at car repair? Unknown. But he is the patriarch of our second family, and if you put Vic Trenton right next to Joe Camber, ladies and gentlemen, you get a literary foil. If you need a refresher on foils anytime in storytelling when you have one character who's on one side of the spectrum, insanely good, kind, generous, benevolent, well, you often might have a sleazy, slimy, cruel, selfish character in the same vicinity. And so the negative contrast of Joe Camber highlights the benevolent nature of Vic. Even though Vic isn't stellar by any means, he's a lot better than Joe. Goddamn, he's way better than Joe. So we're looking at Vic with a lot more positivity and hope because Joe is a piece of trash. Vic is a good guy. A little bit on the struggle bus, needs some work, but in comparison to Joe, Joe is a foil for the good nature of Vic. Let's look at Charity Camber, our wife. Charity is meek and mild because she was taught that's the only way you survive. She is seemingly trained up in the way of a woman is only wife and only mother and never, ever, ever must acknowledge her inner self. Unfortunately, because of Joe's abuse, Charity is a very meek, soft-spoken person, but very smart. And this is what's very cool about Charity. Charity was, for 5 years, unable to conceive. So Brett is a positive thing. I think that this is such a slight detail, but I can't help but focus on it and commend King for throwing it out there. So they've been married 15 years, barren 5. I have a personal theory that toxic relationships don't produce children. I mean, that's hard to say now because we're so full of microplastics. It's very hard to conceive anyway. Quick side tangent. But in this time, I think that regarding Brett's conception, it was a very isolated event where Joe was being kind to her and Charity felt safe and she was able to conceive. But clearly she never had any children after Brett. So toxic pairings don't produce children. Brett is a very isolated outlier. And I think without Brett, Joe would have probably left Charity and or something worse might have happened, unknown there. But what's very cool about Charity, the reason why we should pay attention to her, and the reason why King wants us to pay attention to her, Charity is a smart lady who always believed in Lady Luck and purchased weekly scratchers. Charity has won the lottery. She has won $5,000. And with her son Brett being 10 years old, and she now has a little bit of an economic bundle to help her out, she gets a backbone. Charity finds a spine. She starts looking at her life, and she tells the reader, hey, everybody, my husband Joe is awful, and he goes on long hunting trips with his buddies where they're drunk as skunks with rifles in the woods. Nobody's wearing protective gear, and he wants to take my son on these hunting trips. And all they're talking about is TNA and really inappropriate things for a young boy, and they're drunk with guns around my son. My son is the most precious thing in my life. I have to protect my son. I'm getting the hell out of here, everybody. I got this money. I'm out. So she devises a plan. And here's what's so cunning and crafty. She knows her husband is not going to allow her to go visit her sister Holly in Connecticut. She frames it as, oh, it's a summer trip. I want to see my sister. But in reality, Charity and Brett are going to Connecticut and they ain't ever coming back. And she tells her husband, hey, you can have the money I won. I won money. That's how I'm able to go on this trip. We have some money. If you let me go, you can have it. This is huge, guys. This means this lady really wants to get the hell away, because I think most women, if they had an abusive husband, they wouldn't let them know about one penny of that money. But Charity is playing the long game. She's got to make it convincing. She's got to make it seem like nothing is out of order, not a hair out of place. So she gives Joe a ton of money, of which he's thrilled about, because he could care less about her or her son. I think he cares about Brett, but he doesn't care about her. He says, all right, you can go. Give me that cash. And she finds her way out. More on this a little bit later. Brett Camber is your average healthy 10-year-old. He loves his dog. He's a good boy. He's not a little psycho yet. To our knowledge, he's a sweet guy. So it seems that even though Joe is relatively abusive to Charity, Brett is seemingly unscathed. However, most likely not. Anytime you are in a very abusive environment, even if you're not receiving the abuse, it's still really hard on the child. So I am under the assumption that Brett probably has some hidden scars of his own, probably has some anxieties, and there is a real fear of Joe Camper. Both Charity and Joe sort of seem to operate on the frontage road of Joe. They don't exactly want to be in his path. They want to be in the shadow and on the side, for the most part. It's slight, it's subtle, but it's there. All right, everyone, let's talk about Steve Kemp, who is a fascinating character and very, very timely for our modern toxic masculinity issue that we see throughout the world that we are now labeling. So Steve Kemp is a poet. Don't know how I feel about that as a career choice, but it actually might work. They're very emotional, these poets. No shade on poets, but you know you're emotional. You know you've got a lot of feelings. Steve Kemp is a poet, and I think he's also had some handyman jobs as well. He hooks up with Donna. Donna and Steve are this hot and fast pairing that is purely carnal. Donna could give a rat's backside about Steve's dumb poems, and Steve doesn't really care to share his art with Donna. They are there to screw and to have coitus and barely talk, and that's it. Like, they're not connecting. This is very animalistic. And then Steve Kemp is rebuffed. Donna ends the affair, and she says, you know what? I don't really want to see you anymore, ever again. Don't darken my door. Get out of here. We're done. Steve can't handle this. He unravels everybody, and he feels, how dare she rebuff me? How dare I be the one that's rejected? I am the man. I am a brilliant artist. How dare she? And Steve spirals. He spirals so much that he goes into the Trenton home when no one is there and destroys it. He vandalizes their home, trashes the kitchen, and even better, he masturbates and ejaculates on Donna and Vic's bed. This is dog behavior, right? This is animalistic behavior. One would say Steve Kemp is the real dog, wouldn't you? I think so, everyone. We do have a real dog and his name is Cujo, but Cujo would never. Steve Kemp does, though. Steve Kemp is a beast. And he's very, very loud and bombastic in his behavior. And I can't help but get really mad at Steve. And guys, in my notes, I scribbled next to his name, "What a little bitch boy." And I think that's very applicable. I think that Steve Kemp is throwing a fit and making a mess like a little baby, like a little bitch boy. This is what children do. They throw tantrums and they make messes. And it's like, okay, do we need to get you a little diaper, Steve? He's so abysmally juvenile that it's enraging. But the mentality behind Steve's actions is frighteningly shared all over YouTube, all over the world. This is terrible behavior that unfortunately is very real and present and modern in these dark days of our reality. And so Steve Kemp, for being a frightening character in 1981, I don't know if Steve had any idea just how real this guy is in modern day life. It's very, very frightening. But yeah, Steve is gross. And unfortunately in this text, he does not get his comeuppance for said vandalism, which again, very applicable, very timely. A lot of men have this mentality that Steve has. No, women don't get to do that to me. They are under my thumb. I'm the man. How dare I am entitled to the woman. You guys know how it goes. I don't need to explain this. But Steve Kemp is loud, and as I mentioned with my conversation with the precious, wonderful John Langan, I think Steve's a blueprint for some of the darker and louder king villains we will have throughout his career. I don't know why, but I'm really, really thinking about Norman Daniels from Rose Madder, who was very destructive, very loud, very abusive, dangerous. Steve is a blueprint for the dark people ahead. So I was fascinated to see somebody as destructive and juvenile and a petulant little baby, and how present and modern that behavior is. It is so wild. Steve needs a whole host of therapy. He needs electroshock therapy at this point. That's all I want to say about Steve because he greatly irritates me. Let's talk about Chief Bannerman. We've got 2 characters left. We're almost there. Chief Bannerman, we met in the Dead Zone. He's such a good guy. He's the chief of Castle Rock. He is always at the heart of everything. And he helps Johnny Smith, or rather, Johnny Smith helps Chief Bannerman catch the Castle Rock Strangler. Johnny taps into his dead zone. He taps into that sixth sense that followed him after his 5-year coma. They go to the home of Chief Bannerman's missing deputy. They do some old-fashioned police work, and they start looking at who was absent on the days these women were murdered. And they find Frank Dodd was conveniently missing in action on these days. They go to his mother's house. You guys know what goes down in the Dead Zone. Chief Bannerman makes an appearance here in Cujo because this is a Castle Rock story. Chief Bannerman's a good egg, and he goes out like a hero, but he can't help but be haunted by the shadow of Frank Dodd. But I love that King carried him over, my dudes, and I know that King had the wealth of this setting. Castle Rock as the setting is just a perfect, cool way to throw in these character Easter eggs, to have multiple players in multiple books. But it just feels cool and it feels special, and I'm glad that we have our Johnny Law character, our Chief Bannerman, come in. And King rolls with that because, unfortunately, Chief Bannerman does not make it out of the text alive. He is a victim of Cujo. He goes out with a bang, though. He does his darndest. He fights to the end. And then we have, I believe, if I'm correct, King inserts the new chief, Alan Pangborn, who we do follow for several more books. So I just love this. I love the Castle Rock thread. I know everybody knows about it, but I still want to take a moment and celebrate it. It's cool, my dudes. Let's talk about the coolness of Chief Bannerman and how we had such a pivotal moment with him in the Dead Zone, and then we really get to see this final arc of this character and how Frank Dodd sort of haunted him to the end. Good stuff. And then the last person I do want to talk about, really super duper quick, Frank Dodd. He's our secondary carryover from the Dead Zone. Frank is the serial killer strangler of 8 women, I believe, and he appears to Tad in that dream wearing the rain slicker, if you guys remember that, super duper freaky, and he keeps telling sweet Tad, I'm so slick. I mean, that is so effective. That is such a cool, freaky thing that King did with Frank Dodd. He's in the wet rain slicker. As you're being strangled, you're fighting for your life, but you can't grab onto him because of the slicker. Oh, it's such a terrifyingly compelling detail. I love it. I like Frank Dodd, guys, as a bad guy. What a freaky, freaky dude. And we see after meeting his mother that he got a clothespin in the boy part when he was a baby. So he was basically damaged from infancy. Unfortunately, he was born into a chamber of horrors, which warped him irrevocably. But I like that Frank Dodd and the spirit of Frank is looming around this novel. And one can argue, I think there are textual moments where the reader does wonder, is Frank in the dog? Is he? The more you read and the closer you read, I think King dissolves that, and I think he preserves Cujo as this separate thing. More on that in our next section. But I love the Frank Dodd connection, y'all. I love that he is still in this book. He's a part of the town of Castle Rock. And he is affecting this family in a way that says death is coming. I am death. I was an agent of death, and I am here to announce that it is coming. Ooh, yikes. Let's now do a quick recap of our characters. Number 1, the Trenton family consisting of Vic, Donna, and Tad. Our holy family, unofficially. Followed by the Camber family, Joe Camber, the dad, Charity Camber, the mom, who is very craftily getting the hell out of Dodge, and son Brett Camber, age 10, and the family St. Bernard, sweet Cujo, who we didn't talk a lot about in this section because we're going to talk about him a lot in the next. I think Cujo is 7 years old, I think. Yeah? Please correct me if I'm wrong. There's a lot of notes on this paper. Next we have Steve Kemp, followed by Chief Bannerman. Good job, Chief. And lastly, the Castle Rock Strangler, Frank Dodd. All right, guys, are we feeling warmed up? I think so. I still hear that growling in the woods. I think we should head on out of here. I'm behind the wheel now, and God, this engine, this ignition, it's not starting. Oh dear. Well, let's wait it out, and I'll see you in our next section. All right, dear ones, let us talk about the strengths found in Cujo. Oh, there are many. I had to whittle it down. And I think we had a nice warm-up of some of the strengths in our character section, but now I'm really gonna hammer it home. I really want everybody to walk away from this episode thinking about Cujo in a new way and looking at Cujo as way more than just the cocaine book. Oh man, dudes, he made a literary powerhouse. He did. Oh my goodness. All right, let's start with strengths. Number 1, when you think of Cujo, my dear ones, I would like you to think of it as a tale of two families, a tale of two mothers. So as mentioned in our previous section, we've got the Cambers, Joe, Charity, Brett, and the Trentons, Vic, Donna, Tad. They are consistently paralleling each other. If you want to visualize it, get your left hand, put the Cambers on the left. Get your right hand, put the Trentons on the right. And what King is doing here, with these two families, we are looking at class systems. We are looking at absent fathers, right? Vic is physically away on business. And one could argue he probably escapes into business. He escapes into environments that he can control. And he feels inadequate around his family sometimes. This happens to men. Joe Camber, on the other hand, is just a bedraggled mess. This is a selfish, self-indulgent guy, so he usually escapes so he can engage in his vices. He wants to get wasted with his buddies. He wants to talk about inappropriate things with his friends, and he doesn't want to be reminded that he has to be the provider, right? He doesn't want to think about money and the fact that they don't have a lot of it, and that his business isn't exactly thriving, and he's just sort of stuck in this old town. Everybody's stuck. His wife's stuck. Everybody's stuck. Looking at these two families, we also have sacrificial mothers. Oh my gosh, the mothers in these families, my guys. As mentioned previously, Charity Camber is risking everything. If her husband Joe found out that she was leaving him, buddies, he'd kill her. He would. He would kill her, and he would just tell Brett, your mom got sick. Your mom left us. Stuff like that. This is dangerous. This is a dangerous thing. This is a very risky thing. And she gave most of her money, if not all of the money, to Joe to make a convincing escape. So now she doesn't have any money. So now she's fleeing for her life with nothing. We also see the sacrifice in Donna. Oh my goodness. We're going to talk more about this later on in this section, but Donna really gives it all. She gives it all. She gives all that she could. We've got absent fathers, sacrificial mothers, and what's very interesting about Charity and Donna, Charity's actually trapped, y'all. She's actually trapped in this marriage to Joe. She doesn't have any money. She doesn't have any skills, it sounds like. She can't really go out readily and get a job. She's been a stay-at-home mom this whole time. All she knows about is homemaking, mother, wife stuff. So her skill set, she is severely lacking. She is trapped in this situation. Whereas Donna Trenton thought she was trapped. Donna was under a cloud, a haze, the mental illness lies of thinking she was trapped. She never was trapped. But then she actually becomes trapped. So both women are trapped. Donna is physically trapped at the end, can't escape. We'll talk more about that harrowing, horrifying experience. But it didn't start out that way. Donna was free. She had a lot of freedom. She had a lot of love. She had a lot of joy. But she was trapped by her own mind. And then she is physically trapped. Charity's trapped by her marriage. These are heroic women, dudes. These are heroic women who fight hard. And Charity, it doesn't seem like she does because her moments in the text are a little bit more subtle. But if you think about it, if you really look at what King is telling you, how much she had to risk to get them on that train, how frightened she was when Joe is picking up her suitcase and it's super duper heavy because she has packed every single photo album in her life in that suitcase because she's not coming back. And she is so scared that Joe's going to open it and find out that she's leaving him. She's so scared. The stakes are high. The tension is high. But one could overlook that in this story because we're too busy focusing on the dog. And I want you guys to look at these two families and how unhappy they both are for the most part. Donna's unhappiness was temporary, and then it becomes, pretty devastating there. But two extraordinary mothers in this story, and both families are paralleling each other on different train tracks. One could also say Charity might be a little bit of a foil for Donna, right? We have opposite foils. Regarding the men, Joe is the foil for Vic. Joe's our bad guy, right? one could argue, even though we are objectively looking at Donna's choices to have an affair as objective as possible, we're trying not to judge her. We do judge her a little bit. It wasn't a right thing that she did. It was a damaging, devastating, hurtful thing that she did. And so there is a little judgment in there. We are judging her choice because it was not a good choice to make. And Charity didn't do anything like that. And so Charity, I think, shines a little bit brighter as the mother. We are sadly, just a little bit, as the reader, we are shaking our head and scolding Donna for her affair because she shouldn't have done that. This was not a wise choice. So I don't think we are shaming her by any means, but I think we are shaking our head and saying, I really wish you would have made a different choice. Like, you really made life hard for yourself. You've kind of created a messy situation. It's not exactly judgment, but hey guys, actions have consequences, right? We as the reader are looking at Donna and saying, lady, you made a choice. Here's the repercussions of that. But I just love that at the heart of this novel, y'all, it's a tale of two families, a tale of two mothers. Number 2, Steve Kemp, despicable and applicable. I think I got a little heated in our previous section, perhaps a bit too early, because Steve Kemp brings it out of me. But I did want to just highlight really quick and double down on some of the points I made in the other section. I think what King is saying with Steve Kemp is that man is the most dangerous animal. Cujo is the animal afflicted with rabies, becomes rabid, becomes a real danger. A death machine, if you will. But Steve Kemp is diabolically premeditated, choosing to do these things. He can't take no for an answer. He can't take the rejection. So what does he do? He becomes a wrecking ball of chaos. Steve Kemp, aka men, are the most dangerous animal. And what a profound concept in this story, guys. Again, the reader can be bamboozled by Cujo and the haunting, looming presence of the monstrous beast that Cujo is becoming due to his rabid condition. But if you're not looking closely, you can miss the fact that King is saying Steve is the real beast. Steve Kemp is the unhinged psychopath. And guys, I mean, present day, it could have got much, much darker. King could have had Steve Kemp get himself a firearm. It could have got much darker. I'm really glad it didn't. We do see later on in King works that the villains he makes do in fact get much darker. Much, much darker. They also get some pretty rad comeuppances, I must say, but Steve is the most dangerous animal. He literally marks his territory like a dog. And what a powerful symbol. What a powerful, timely, modern symbol, y'all. Steve Kemp is a real guy floating around our internet browsers right now. And there are thousands of them. It's very depressing. But yeah, Steve is the real beast, everybody. Number 3, Cujo, a tragic vessel of doom. All right, lovies. Contrary to the Hollywood marketing that the film received in 1983, I know I've talked about this a lot, but one of the real issues I have with King and film is that I feel creators, directors, screenwriters, mostly marketing, King really got typecast as a horror author, and he told his publishers at the time he didn't care. He did, but that was later on. Cujo is like Jaws. There is a terrifying, beastly creature hunting innocent people down and killing them in morbid, horrific ways. And that's how the film was marketed, and I believe the book was marketed as such as well. But when we are really in this text, guys, when we're really, really looking closely, what happens is King gives us the point of view of Cujo. He is this sweet-spirited dog. St. Bernards, I am not a dog expert, but I have been told they are very gentle. If you guys remember the Beethoven movies from the 90s, they are sweet and they love kids. We should never fear them. They are just sweet, gentle dogs. And we hear from Cujo. Cujo was a good boy. He loved his family, he loved Brett, he loved tramping around the wide open Maine wilderness. And then suddenly, the agent of chaos. Insert calamity. He is bitten by a rabid bat. They don't have the rabies vaccine, and nobody is acknowledging Cujo's body changes in time. There was nothing that could be done. And so Cujo is a tragic character who becomes King's vessel of judge, jury, and executioner. One could argue, looking at this text, is Cujo a punisher for immorality? Even though King was upset that people would attribute Donna's entrapment to punishment for adultery, I mean, we have to look at the text. We can't be an apologist for what King said because the text is the text, right? And let's jump really quick to the Torrance family. Like the Overlook Hotel for the Torrance family, the Overlook Hotel destroyed that family, but they were on the path of destruction. Doom was on page 1 of The Shining. This was a family that was going to be sacrificed. For what reason, we don't know. But is Cujo a punisher? Is he this angel of death? Because once Cujo is fully rabid, I believe once he kills Joe Camber and his friend, we never hear from Cujo again. King gives us the point of view of Cujo when things are good and when his body is changing and he feels sick and he feels sad and he's afraid. And then once Cujo is fully rabid, he's gone. I think Cujo spiritually dies and the beast takes over. We never hear from Cujo again. We hear from side thoughts and dreams. Vic will have a dream about this oppressive force coming to kill. Donna will see visions of a dog and or hear a refrain of going to kill you, going to kill her. And so there's this haunting, is it Frank Dodd? We don't know, but it's Cujo, but Cujo is something else entirely now, right? Cujo is this angel of death, right? And we don't connect to him as a character ever again. He's this other thing entirely. He's a force of destruction. Is Cujo a metaphor for cocaine? Potentially. Potentially, because cocaine, to my knowledge, is pretty harmless and fun until it's not. Until one can't go without it. Until one's day is beginning and ending with it, and it becomes too much very quickly. One could infer that is a lingering theme regarding Cujo. It's all fun and games until it's not. Cujo's a gentle dog until he's rabid and then he's not. Unknown, that might be a stretch, but we'll throw it out there just in case it works. I think it is applicable. I think we do have contextual evidence. Again, we keep toying around the Frank Dodd and the spirit of Cujo. I don't know. I don't know if there's enough evidence there, but it is lingering. I think, as John Langan said, Castle Rock is haunted, right? Castle Rock is afflicted spiritually by the horrors of Frank Dodd. And it's in the town. It's in the setting, deep in the roots. But we have these very, very unique dream sequence moments. Vic has a nightmare and he doesn't know they're trapped yet, right? The audience is freaking out. The reader knows that they're trapped and stuck. And Vic is still away on his work trip. And he has this nightmare at 2 a.m. and he wants to call Donna. He really, really wants to call her and make sure she's okay. But he's like, no, they're fine. But he has this dream. He sees a dog. He hears this haunting voice. Donna, when she's in the car, she has this sixth sense of like, I felt this presence before and it was in Tad's closet. I feel like I've felt this. I've seen this. I knew this was coming. There's this very strange ethereal omniscience, this ominous doom that the family is encountering in dreams. Tad, of course, had a dream about Frank Dodd. Guys, there's some deep stuff with what Cujo represents. He is larger than the dog. He's larger than his rabid form. He's a symbol for so much more. He is a symbol of death, and he is a symbol of perhaps judgment on this family. As much as we don't want to punish Donna for infidelity, it's happening. We got to look at it. We got to look at why one family was chosen to suffer and the other family was not. The Cambers were relatively spared, if not saved. Let's look at this. We'll talk about our ending here shortly, but baby Tad does not make it. Donna and Vic are destroyed. Steve has zero consequences in this. Look at what happens to the Cambers. Charity and Brett escape. Joe, the evil father, the villain in their lives, was killed. They're free. One family receives that grace. One family receives that benevolence. The more economically disadvantaged family receives reprieve, whereas the more affluent, perhaps healthier family gets doom. We don't know why. I don't think there is a reason why, but we should focus in on that. Why is one family spared and one family is cursed? It's very sad. It's very tragic. And I think King might be hinting at the atrocities of life. We never know who Cujo might come for. And maybe there isn't a reason why. Maybe this is very, very early from a Buick 8 Colorado kid stuff he's toying with. Decades in the future, unknown. But what I would like people to think about is Cujo is a vessel for destruction. And he's no longer really the sweet doggy. Cujo, the precious good boy, is gone by the middle of the book. By page 150, Cujo's gone forever. And we have standing in its place this freight train of doom. And it's coming for the Trentons without stopping. And they have been warned through dreams, psychic visions. They have been told it's coming for them. And there's nothing they could do to stop it. And holy hell, that is tragic, y'all. This is sad, sad stuff. But such a huge strength of this story. Strength number 4. Let's jump to Tad and Donna's entrapment and explore the long, slow body horror featuring lots of dramatic irony. My dudes, we have a 300-page book. Half the book is Tad and Donna trapped and slowly dying. Guys, this is body horror at its finest, and this one really, really shook me up. Really, really affected me. I have a feeling anybody who lives in hot places, the desert, for example, this one is very scary. The closest I've ever been to dying by heat, I didn't know it was happening at the time, but I think about it. I think about how I could have died. Once upon a time when Kim C was in the 8th grade, the bus stop was a couple blocks from the house. It wasn't super far, probably a 20 to 25 minute walk. However, school had just started. This is the end of August, early September, and the desert is particularly hellish at that point in time. And I think it was one of those dangerous heat advisory days. If it's ever over 115 degrees, you're really skirting death. And it was. And I remember being a little nervous about it walking home, but I was 14 and who cares, whatever. And I was walking home, and here's how it gets scary, guys. I remember my body, I'm hot, my cheeks are red, I'm not sweating, but what started to frighten me is I looked at my arms and I had goosebumps. And I kept getting chills, and I would get goosebumps all over my body. And what I found out is that is one going into shock. That is your body saying that you are dying, and you need to find water and or shelter immediately. And I was still not home yet, and I started to feel those goosebumps. And so the danger of dying from heat is terrifying. And desert kids, we know this to be true. And so this was a really hard portion of the book for me to digest. And one thing I was sad that King did not input in the book, the film did, but King didn't write about it. When Donna and Tad are stuck, Cujo is there, they can't leave, the car is dead. They are working their way through their little snack rations. King does not write about Donna taking off Tad's clothes to get him cool. The movie does a great job with this, and I was really happy that we visually have that, because that's what you need to do. So as I was reading about their entrapment, I was like, Donna, take his clothes off. Take all the clothes off. Everyone needs to have all of their clothes off. Like, you are overheating. Oh my God. So I started to get very anxious as I was reading this, because death is very real for people who live in this state. It sneaks up on you. Dehydration is frightening. The desert is constantly trying to kill you, and how they've made it habitable is a great mystery to me. But long story short, death by heat stroke and suffocation and overheating is really, really very scary because I felt it before. I felt it sadly more than once, and it's very, very scary. And if you are not revived with water and lower temperature and ice and cooling down, your body cooks. It is terrifying. And here, King gives us the slow descent into death and madness with both of them. And it is just heartbreaking, my guys. It is just so ghastly. And King, of course, does a beautiful job with this because we see and hear, as you make your way through, Donna and Tad, their voice starts getting more and more hoarse. They are getting really crabby, very tired. Tad is probably the most horrifying example of this because his little body, Donna talks about when she gives him a hug, his body feels very hard. He's not soft. He feels like a plank of wood. When she touches his skin is hot to the touch. It is just awful. And they can't get out. She's trying so much, and the dramatic irony is so huge because the audience knows we see them dying, and Vic has no idea. Vic has no idea, and he's slowly piecing it together, slowly making his way back to the house and figuring out where they are, and so it's just agonizing for the reader because we know what's happened to them, and we see them dying. And then Donna gets out of the car, and she gets mauled, everybody! She gets bit, she gets cut up, she gets, oh my god, ravaged by Cujo. And guess what? The virus incubates inside of her at least 24 hours, so she's rabid. This is just a slow, sad, tragic, horrifying reading experience where we just see these two sweet people. The part that I think breaks my heart the most is when it starts to get a little dicey, right? Donna is planning for the mailman the next day. That's her hope. She is hoping the mailman's going to get us out of here. He's going to come by. We're going to be good. And that is her hope. So this was most likely about 12 hours in. And sweet little Tad tells her, I really want to have a Dr. Pepper when I get home. And she hugs him and she goes, you can have all the Dr. Pepper you could drink. And Donna is planning what it's going to look like when they get home. She's going to put them both in the shower. She's going to use his shampoo. They're going to scrub down and they're going to have a really good meal and say, wow, that was close. And oh God, guys, it just breaks my heart because she's planning and hoping to get out of it. She's planning it's not going to get worse than this. We're going to be saved. And that's what kills you. It's the hope that kills you. It's the hope that breaks you completely. And that's the part that I think really, really breaks my heart, especially knowing heat stroke symptoms and knowing how fragile and vulnerable little Tad is. And King didn't write about her taking his clothes off, and I really wish that he would have, because that's the first thing you do when you start to overheat. You need to protect your head. You got to get those clothes off. You got to, all the things. I started to freak out with that part, guys, but the long, slow body horror, especially leading into our next point and our final strength for this section. Number 5, Donna Trenton is a final girl. All right, let's look at Donna. I have loved this lady so much throughout, but I've never loved her more until the end of the novel. We get glimpses of Donna's strength when she ends her affair with Steve. She is defiant. She is pissy. She is not a sweet, pleasant, like, I just don't think I can see you anymore, Steve. She's like, no, we're done. Get the hell out of my life. I never want to see you again. So I like that we see her spunk early on. And guys, in that argument with Steve, he threatens to rape her. I don't know if I can articulate enough how horrible he is, but she threatens him right back. It's pretty great. But guys, Donna is rabid, and we don't officially know this for sure, but the reading infers that she becomes someone else. So when she finally gets to the point where there is no one coming, we are dying, and she gets out of the car and there is a fight to the death with the creature in Cujo's body, the beast that has taken over the dog Cujo. It's a fight to the death, and she is victorious. And then when Cujo is dead, she keeps stabbing and stabbing and stabbing. And then this is some of the really graphic and very upsetting imagery for dog lovers. This is hard. It's hard to read because, oh my God, guys, the descriptive details, the gore is just, my God. Everyone is covered in blood. There's just blood everywhere. And the visuals, I mean, Donna at this point is a creature, and she is the final girl. She is the last one standing, and in order to defeat Cujo, it took all of her. And at this point, she's rabid, so we don't know where Donna is. She's very animalistic at this point. And I don't think she's quite aware that baby Tad is no longer with us. And so, oh God, it is just tragedy on tragedy on tragedy, and yet there's so much gore and violence, and it's hard because I think the reader secretly loves Cujo deep down inside. Even though we have seen him commit atrocious things, we know that that wasn't him. We know that he was a good boy and he would have never done this. And so it just makes it so sad to see Donna sort of desecrating his corpse for the most part. She just is wild and uncontrollable and in a state of pure, raw survival. And oh man, guys, we should be talking about Donna Trenton forever as one of the most powerful females in the King canon. 100%. Complex, and whether or not King intentionally or unintentionally made the entrapment punishment for her infidelity, Donna goes there in her own mind. She also thinks it's her fault that this is what happened. And I think that that's such a perfect segue for what happens to Donna and Vic in the gorgeously written short story called Rattlesnakes, featured in the 2024 short story collection You Like It Darker, where this couple couldn't survive knowing what had happened between them and what caused the death of their son. And oh my God, just so much drama, guys. And this is the drama you find in literary fiction. In straight up Pulitzer winning fiction, my guys. This is what I'm saying. Like, this is the sleeper I never knew I was gonna find. I just can't get enough of it. But before we dipperoni to our last section, I did want to read a portion of the text. We must always celebrate this beautiful book. And this sort of highlights what I'm talking about with Donna as our final girl. This is on page 298, very, very close to the end. The time had come, and Donna knew it. The time might also have gone, but she would have to live with that and perhaps die with it. No one was going to come. There was going to be no knight on a silver steed riding up Town Road No. 3. Travis McGee was apparently otherwise engaged. Tad was dying. She made herself repeat it aloud in a husky, choked whisper. Tad's dying. She had not been able to create any breeze through the car this morning. Her window would no longer go down, and Tad's window let in nothing but more heat. The one time she had tried to unroll it more than a quarter of the way, Cujo had left his place in the shade of the garage and had come around to Tad's side as fast as he could, growling eagerly. The sweat had now stopped rolling down Tad's face and neck. There was no more sweat left. His skin was dry and hot. His tongue, swelled and dead-looking, protruded over his bottom lip. His breathing had grown so faint that she could barely hear it. Twice she had had to put her head against his chest to make sure that he still breathed at all. Her condition was bad. The car was a blast furnace. The metal work was now too hot to touch, and so was the plastic wheel. Her leg was a steady, throbbing ache, and she no longer doubted that the dog's bite had infected her with something. Perhaps it was too early for rabies. She prayed to God it was, but the bites were red and inflamed. Cujo was not in much better shape. The big dog seemed to have shrunk inside his matted and blood-streaked coat. His eyes were hazy and nearly vacant, the eyes of an old man stricken with cataracts. Like some old engine of destruction, now gradually beating itself to death, but still terribly dangerous, he kept his watch. He was no longer foaming. His muzzle was a dried and lacerated horror. It looked like a gouged chunk of igneous rock that had been coughed out of the hotbed of an old volcano. The old monster, she thought incoherently, keeps his watch still. Had this terrible vigil been only a matter of hours? Or had it been her whole life? Surely everything that had gone before had been a dream, little more than a short wait in the wings. The mother had seemed to be disgusted and repulsed by all those around her, the well-meaning but ineffectual father, the schools, the friends, the dates and dances. They were all a dream to her now, as youth must seem to the old. Nothing mattered. Nothing was but this silent and sun-struck dooryard, where death had been dealt, and yet more death waited in the cards as sure as aces and eights. The old monster kept his watch still, and her son was slipping away. The baseball bat. That was all that remained to her now. The baseball bat, and maybe, if she could get there, something in the dead man's police car, something like a shotgun. She began to shift Tad into the back, grunting and puffing, fighting the waves of dizziness that made her sight gray over. Finally, he was in the hatchback, as silent, as still as a sack of grain. She looked out his window, saw the baseball bat lying in the high grass, and opened the door. In the dark mouth of the garage, Cujo stood up and began to advance slowly, head lowered, down the crushed gravel toward her. It was 12:30 when Donna Trenton stepped out of her Pinto for the last time. Oh my God, guys. It's just so tragic, and it's so beautiful, and it's so powerful. And Donna is a final girl, and for everything that we've been through with her in the text, and however we may have felt about her and her choices, you gotta give her props. You gotta clap for this lady. She was brave, she was heroic, and she was on the brink of death. She showed herself for who she really was, which was somebody who wanted to save her son, who put someone else above her own needs, and that's the definition of hero. Oh my goodness. Oh my loves. Before we head into our next section, let's do a big ol' recap of our strengths found within the novel Cujo. Number 1, a tale of two families, a tale of two mothers. Number 2, Steve Kemp, despicable and applicable. Number 3, Cujo, a tragic vessel of doom. Number 4, the long, slow body horror featuring lots of dramatic irony. And lastly, number 5, Donna Trenton is a final girl. Let's get on out of here. We've been rescued, okay? Vic and the cops have come. We made it. I'm a little banged up. I'm a little bloody. I will need a hospital visit. But I will see you in our final section, where we will examine my final thoughts on the 1983 film. Any questions, any lingering criticism, I'll see you there. Alright, sweet people, we have made it. This is the final section of our Cujo reading experience on this boiling hot July day. Hopefully after this, we're going to jump in the pool. We're going to get out of that damn car. I want to begin this section by examining the 1983 film directed by Louis Teague. I liked this one, guys. I definitely liked more than I disliked, specifically with casting. Oh my goodness. First of all, Dee Wallace. She plays Donna Trenton. She was also the mom in E.T. Oh my God, what a wonderful performance. I think King has also praised her for this performance. This was exceptional. She really went through it physically. She was there. Oh man, this was a commanding, compelling performance. I really, really liked her as Donna. I also thought Daniel Hugh Kelly, who played Vic, he did a great job too. He's sort of the sweet yet oblivious, as we talked about Vic's character. He's inundated with work and family stuff is on the sidelines of his brain until it becomes the terrifying reality that he realized he needed to be focusing on with greater attention. But he did a great job. But oh man, all the respects to Danny Pintaro, who plays young Tad. Dudes, I am just in awe of child actors, and a part of me, my heart breaks for him, because when you're that young, you don't really get what's happening. You don't get the performance aspect. I mean, you do, but you don't. He's really going through that. This kid's really scared. He's really crying, and so my heart is very tenderized for child performances, because they are feeling these things to make this emotion come. And granted, kids are pretty resilient, but still, I felt terrible. And I was so enamored by the casting and the performances. They did great. Cujo the dog is horrifying. They did a great job by making him look so gross. And I thought that was really effective. I think without the film in my mind, I actually saw the film after I read the book. But throughout my life, I've seen clips of the film and I've seen pictures of Cujo. So I knew he was kind of slimy with gore, and I think that did bleed into my reading, which was fine because it makes sense when there's so much blood in the final act of the book. So it makes sense that everybody would be a little wet with blood and grime and gore. It's so visceral. Oh my gosh, it's just yikes, those details. But I think I like those details. It really hammers it home. And if you were to read this book maybe without seeing the film, maybe Cujo would appear a bit more dusty, not exactly wet with blood and gore, but maybe just a little dusty and disheveled. But the film smears on a lot of Vaseline blood concoction, a lot of goo on this poor baby dog. He did great, but he's wet with gore, which is effective for his monstrous state at that time. There's an actress, Kaulani Lee. She plays Charity. I feel that casting was perfect. Oh, I love the settings, guys. As I was telling John Langan, I think the film depicts the economic status of both of the Cambers and the Trentons really, really well. The Trentons are well off. They have a beautiful home overlooking Castle Lake, I believe. And I don't think we get as much detail as to how well off they are in the novel, but the film does a great job of showing they ain't hurting for cash. They're doing quite well. And the Cambers, however, live in the Tuileries. They live in the sticks, in a shack, very rural, and you gotta find the Cambers house with a sign on a plank of wood, and it's all very just not exactly thriving monetarily. But I love the visualizations. I feel that the film was as true to the story as it could be. It just ramped up the Cujo attacks because that's how they wanted to market the film. They wanted to get butts and seats, and so they ramped up the monster action. And that's where the whole bamboozlement lies. That's where all of the smoke and mirrors is, because I assumed from the film marketing that it was only about a Jaws-like creature killing people. And what a fool I was. What a clown. Because it's so much deeper than that. Cujo is in the middle of the two families, right? We have the Cambers on the left, the Trentons on the right, and then Cujo is in the middle, and he's coming right at you. But he represents something so much deeper, so much more than just a rabid dog. We mourn Cujo. We love Cujo. We're sad that he meets the fate that he does. There's so much more complex reader feelings throughout. And the film is just not able to show that. I think when Cujo is finally defeated in the film, we sigh with relief, and I don't know if we exactly feel that in the novel. We are relieved that they're free, sort of, but it's tragedy all around. I don't know if any relief is found at the end of the novel, which is a powerful, sad thing. But I can't knock the film for doing what it tried to do in the early 80s, which was to create a very entertaining horror film that was marketed to monster fans. Cujo was a rabid monster in the movie. He looked really menacing. He had a high body count, which is what happened in the book, and the dog attacks were well choreographed, and so I felt casting was good, and the film still stands. I would encourage people to watch Cujo. We watched it with book club, and we liked it. There was a lot to celebrate, and you guys know, of course, I love my costumes. You know I love my 70s, early 80s wardrobe, so it was so great to see the cars, and especially that terrible Pinto. Don't ever buy those. They don't exist anymore, but apparently back in the day, they were just a tinderbox and very unreliable. But it was great being in the environment of the film, and as mentioned, I like that the film took off Tad's clothes. He was overheating. It took off Donna, removed as much clothes as she could, and that's what you do when you're dying of heat, and I like that the film represented that. I liked that we were actually in the car a lot, and the music when Cujo attacks is really enthralling, and so it's entertaining. It's a good adaptation, and the performances and casting were very well done. So, thumbs up. Good job, Cujo from 1983. I can't knock you for what you did for the times, and I like that their performances and the script, it all fits pretty well. There wasn't too many interpolations, minus the fact that we have a happier ending. We have an ending that I wish we would have had in the book, just because my heart really wanted Tad to be okay. But because Tad is not okay in the book, it makes me look deeper. It makes me go deeper to try and find some sort of hope there. And I don't know if there is for the novel, and I think that's okay. But the movie, thank heavens, Tad makes it. And that's a relief. It actually is a relief for the film, because I have a feeling if you were to redo Cujo and Tad would die at the end, we might be okay, but we actually might not. We actually might not be okay. So I think for film and just having a physical, visual connection with the characters, seeing Tad die in real life would have been way too hard to swallow. Most likely because we're with him dying for so long. This is a situation where watching Tad die was so painful, and then he actually dies, and there's no relief there. There's only void and sadness. Whereas with the film, it works. It works, and I think the audience, it's a big sigh of relief. Oh my God, that Tad lives. So I'm actually okay. I'm actually okay with the film choosing a different ending. I think that for film goers, it would have been too intense of an experience at the time in the early 80s. I don't know if we were ready for that much heartbreak. I mean, God, guys, if you remember in the early 80s, kids were getting kidnapped left and right. It was a dark time for parenthood. It was a dangerous, dangerous world. I mean, technically speaking, it wasn't just the early 80s. It was all of the times before we started having a lot more cameras and identification and things of that nature. It's sadly always been dangerous to be a kid in this world, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. Long story short, the 1983 film still holds up. I didn't mind it, not one bit. I do have one question I would like to put forth to everyone regarding the death of Cujo and why it simultaneously occurs as Tad Trenton. Okay, guys. If you remember the passage I read in our previous section, Donna is getting ready to get out of the car and go get Brett's baseball bat and use it to defeat Cujo and get them help. She says Tad is almost dead. He is having trouble breathing, or his breathing is very faint. She did put her ear to his chest to make sure he was still alive. The next scenes that transpire is a very, very violent confrontation with Cujo where she is bludgeoning him, she's beating him. hard to read, sad stuff, not fun. But then Cujo is dead. And then shortly after, thank God, but too late, Vic arrives. He realized Steve Kemp wasn't the culprit who didn't kidnap Donna and Tad, but that they were stuck at the Cambers place the entire time. So he gets there. Donna is in her full final girl stance, covered in blood, clutching the bat, won't let go of the bat, won't stop beating Cujo's lifeless body. And then Vic grabs Tad out of the car and he lays him down on the front porch and he says to Donna, this is such a haunting moment, guys. Oh my gosh, this moment is forever. And he looks at Donna and he says, how long has he been dead? And oh man, just sometimes there are king moments in books that just live forever, and that one will live forever for me. My question to you all, I believe that as Donna was killing Cujo, that's when Tad died. One could say it means nothing, or we could lean on this side of the fence where it means something. Why did they die at the same time? I personally don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I'd like to hypothesize that this was locked in. The death of Tad was completely locked in from moment one when this family had been marked by death itself. Fate and doom had swirled around the Trenton family, and no matter what was going to happen, somebody was going to have to be sacrificed. And so it didn't matter that Cujo was killed. It didn't matter that they destroyed the oppressive, opposing force, the animal, the source of nature, the hunter that was after them. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if Donna killed him, because it was always going to be this way, which, oh gosh, guys, if you step back from that, if you step back from the fact that Donna kills the destroyer, she is the destroyer, and conquers the opponent, it didn't matter. Didn't matter, because Tad still died. He couldn't be revived. They were doing CPR, and no matter what happened, they couldn't save him. Paramedics got there, it was too late. And so I believe if you closely read the text as Donna is bludgeoning Cujo, that's when Tad dies. They die at the same moment. And I don't know, my guys, there's something about that. There's something huge about that for me. And I can't really answer why he did that. Do you guys have any ideas? I can tell you I like it a lot. It feels so much bigger than one might originally view. It feels planned. Like I said, this is a very choreographed dance, this novel. Leading back to the original point of how did he do this all hopped up on cocaine? I don't know. It's miraculous. I'm leaning towards miraculous. But that's my only question. I wonder why. Why did they die at the same time? Perhaps I answered it, perhaps I didn't. And as previously stated, it could mean nothing. It could just be a quinkadink that Tad took his last breath at the same time that Cujo was taking his. But I don't think so. I don't think so, everybody. This is too big, too huge, too perfect. It works so well. So why do you think? That's the only question I've got. Other final thoughts or questions? I think my big revelation from this reading experience, as I've tried to echo throughout the sections, my dears, Cujo completely surprised me in the best way. I felt so foolish for assuming it was just a monster book, it was just a rabid dog book. I don't know why I would be so foolish. I'm sad at myself, but I'm also so glad that I came around and realized its power. And now I'm gonna be a manic street preacher about it. Now I'm never gonna shut up about the power of Cujo and how I really, really want this to be rebranded as something entirely different. This is a literary fiction, guys. This is a tragic story of two doomed families. One family makes it and one family doesn't. And we need to look at the reasons why. Is it economics? Is it the dark hand of judgment? Is it a metaphor for drug addiction? Who knows? Or is it just random tragedy? Is it just random, existential, this is the hand that you were dealt? I don't know. But we should explore it as readers, and this is a super powerful king book. And from this revelation, I think over the years, throughout my constant reader interviews, I am always thinking about which books I should recommend to non-King readers. And for the longest time, it was always 1982's Different Seasons. But then, as you guys know, I effing hate Apt Pupil. I respect the story for what it is, but I hate it. It's gross. It makes me want to throw the book across the room. I hate Todd Bowden. I hate Kurt Dusander. I hate those Nazi... I wanted to unleash some F-bombs. I know you guys would be okay with that, but I'm trying to keep it formal here. Anyway, an F-bomb tirade would ensue surrounding the Apt Pupil novella. Ergo, I stopped recommending Different Seasons. And then I started thinking about, okay, what about Hard Case Crime? Maybe Later. That might be a great one to recommend. But Later's a ghost story, so it's a little genre. And then talking with John Langan and reading Cujo, I've discovered it. I've discovered my new stance. Going forward, ladies and gentlemen, whenever I meet and or speak with and or interact with a non-Stephen King reader and they are asking me, where should I start with Stephen King? I am going to suggest reading The Dead Zone first, followed by Cujo. 2-book homework assignment. Because, guys, I feel that will do it. That will cinch, that will reel them in, and that will show that these are early 80s King titles, where King was not just writing about monsters and ghosts and haunted hotels and mutant prom queens. It was so much deeper. He has so much heart. He has so much literary power. This man knows what he's doing. And I think if we could reframe that right during the time of his career popping off in the early 80s, I don't know. I think that would be such a cool move, and I'm going to use it going forward. And I don't think I would have ever known that this was the right path to take until I read Cujo. So it's been a long time coming. But then once this year, as mentioned, this was our Castle Rock year in book club and reading Dead Zone, followed by Cujo, I just heard the click. I feel these 2 books, and I think John Langan felt it too, and he knows. And he also suggested it. He reminded me, these 2 need to be bosom buddies. These 2 need to be read back to back in succession, and these need to be the 2 we recommend. Going forth, everyone, as you go out in the world, let's assign a 2-book homework assignment and be adamant about it. Say, listen, if you really want a good chunk of who Stephen King is and what he's capable of, there are many pop culture paths you could take based on the films. You could go the It route, of course. Feel free if you want to do that. You could do The Stand. You could do Carrie. Feel free, choose your own adventure. However, if you really want my 2 cents, get your hands on The Dead Zone, followed by Cujo, and read them back to back. Then, let's have a talk. Let's have a talk about what you think about Stephen King, and then I will hit you with more recommendations. Lovies, I am fully alive with this new path, and I think this is what I'm going to be very passionate about suggesting going forward. Dead Zone is a powerhouse, followed by Cujo, which is a gorgeous, tragic story. This is a literary fiction novel about the devastating hand of fate and all of the symbols we have discussed. And I am so, so, so happy that I read it. And I can't help but get really excited at the Wheel of Ka, because I think had I read it years earlier, I don't know if I would have felt this strongly about it. The time I am reading these King books, I think it's destined. And this episode is coming to you now in a place of wow. And I'm happy. I'm happy that I feel this way about the story. And hopefully some of the things we've explored today will help you give the novel Cujo a little bit more reverence, encourage a reread perhaps. Perhaps a book club reading experience would be good. But again, this is a violent one for animal lovers. This is a hard one, so tread carefully. But I think that's all I have, guys. I think if I continue talking, I'm going to start repeating myself, and we don't want that. I think we will end it here with my burning, passionate love for the novel Cujo, a love of which I had no idea would exist, caught me completely by surprise, as the best kind of loves do, came out of nowhere, came in from left field like a wrecking ball. And I'm so pleased. I feel so elated at this late discovery of King's writing power. And guys, whatever yayo he was on, whatever cocaine he was sniffing, I don't know. I guess I'm okay with it. because we have a very sharp, well-executed novel. If the rumors are true and he doesn't remember it, I hope he would reread his wonderful writing at some point and give himself a pat on the back, because he created something very special. He created a very layered story with a ton of symbolism and themes, and like, oh my God, I'm just in awe. I'm in awe over here, as I always am with the beautiful writing of Stephen King. Let's adjourn, dear ones. Coming up on the Year of Underrated Stephen King, I have a very cool constant reader interview. I'm very excited about this person, so he will be coming at you shortly. And then after that, I don't know. As mentioned in other episodes, I have this terrible thing where I announce what I'm going to do, and then I get a wild hair and I go in the opposite direction. So I actually don't know. We will be in August, and it's birthday month. It is Kim C's 40th birthday, 4 decades, 40 trips around the sun. Very, very happy. I'm excited. I love getting older, minus the difficult body stuff going on. But I don't know. Feels really good. Feels great, guys. I'm happy to be here. It's going to be a good time. However, I'm always a little bit pickled in August because I am celebrating with friend groups at various times. And a lot more alcohol is consumed during this time. So I'm hoping to stay as sharp as possible. But I might need a little buffer for birthday bashes surrounding the month of August. Coming up, guys, oh man, we gotta get those wheels greased. October, we're gonna get the highly anticipated Talisman 3, Other Worlds Than These. We're getting a brand new Stephen King novel. And then, we are getting Mike Flanagan's new Carrie series. Oh my God, it's coming out October 7th. I will be doing week-by-week coverage with all of my buddies who are going to be doing the same because we're flipping out together. And so I am so excited. So we're going to have a very busy fall. It's going to pop off. Therefore, it's okay if summer's a little slow. As per usual, please check out the Patreon, The Dance Macabre with Kim C, if you're looking for extra efforts from moi. It's patreon.com/dancewithkimc. That's dance with an S. There is a complimentary King Sorrow episode if you want to check it out without any monetary commitments. But if you're interested, you can go and see what's going on over there and support the show. It would be greatly appreciated. But until next time, thank you guys. This was a lot of talking. This was a lot of Kim C blabber. So it is such a joy to have you here with me. Thank you for listening. I hope you got something out of this. I hope it enriches your reading experience. That's always what I'm trying to do every single time, every single episode. I love you all. Thank you. If you want to say hi, please reach out to me on the socials, or you can email me at underratedsk@gmail.com, where I will promptly respond as soon as I am able. Take care. Everybody, please stay cool. It's hot out here. Watch yourself. Stay hydrated. Take care. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.